receiver has been a position that has become quasi running back-ish in recent years, that there are so many great ones every year. Jim Nagy, who's the executive director of Reese's Senior Bowl, and I think is dabbling in some media stuff now that the Senior Bowl's over.
Yeah,
he doesn't
Jim
have
does
to
a
really
good
do
job.
anything with it until next year.
Yeah.
He says that the NFL isn't nearly as high on the wide receiver class as the media is,
right,
and that many teams have just one receiver with a round one grade. And I don't know what you've already done your receiver rankings.
Right.
Do you agree that there's only one guy with a round one grade?
I could see that logic there. Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy statement. I could see teams having only one guy. For me, there was really only three guys. It was three. It was the top three, really. Michael Wilson has incredible injury history at number 4. Jalen Hyatt was a guy where I was like, maybe some team falls in love with him at the end of the first round in his speed, but ultimately I think he's a top 10 pick of the second round in day 2 there. But yeah, I think there's questions with the other two guys. I love Zay Flowers. Jigba is the only, he's a great route runner. You get to see it all. He's got NFL size, and strength, so he makes you feel comfortable. I love Zay Flowers, obviously. I do. I think, some of the teams that don't love him, Mike, they're just going, I think it's a little more of like, wait, it's Boston College, and there's not much help, and, he's sitting in one spot all game long, and he doesn't get to do a whole lot that gives him an advantage or helps him that way. But, no, I don't think that's a crazy thought. It's an underwhelming receiver class as compared to what we've seen, over the last 5 or 6 years. There's some good mid-round picks, but those guys right there, I think ultimately are the only guys that have a chance to really be stars in the NFL, and that's rare that we say that in this day and age.
I also think that we have to account for the Michael Thomas factor, which is a receiver who maybe slips out of round 1 when he thinks he should have been a first-round pick. That lights some sort of a fire, develops some sort of a motivation, and gets the guy to be better than anybody ever thought he was going to be. And maybe that's the key. It's not about burning a first-round pick on a receiver, just like it's no longer about burning a first-round pick on a running back. You can get a guy who could maybe be developed into a great receiver in round 2, in round 3. I mean, just look at some of the names that are now some of the stars of the sport. They weren't first-round picks. They were second-round picks or later.
Right.
So,
to your point, Deebo Samuel, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, all second-round picks, right? So, yeah, a little chip on their shoulder, all of that. So you're not crazy there, Mike. And this is there's some real validity to what you're saying there for sure. And it's a different year. Again, even with that, if we could bring up the list again, Jackson Smith and Jigba, right, Mike? Right? The number 2 guy you see there. He hasn't been able to play football the whole year because of a hamstring injury. So how comfortable do you feel about that, right? So I would think he's off of people's boards. Quentin Johnson is a big, strong guy who only runs a few routes, so you don't get to see a ton, right? So there's all little issues across the board here, but I think those are the 3 guys that are universally only talked about as far as the first-round conversation. Obviously my favorite 3, but yeah, it's not like we've seen in years past where we go, oh man, there's like 4 or 5 guys actually that are round 2 that I really kind of like just as much as the ones that are getting picked in round 1. That's not the case this year.
And just after winning his 6th Super Bowl in New England in early 2019, Bill Belichick, with the last pick in round 1, took receiver N'Keal Harry with Deebo Samuel, with A.J. Brown, with DK Metcalf on the board.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, the Vikings don't get a pass either. They took tight end Irv Smith with Brown and Metcalf on the board. So, but maybe that worked out well because then the next year they took Justin Jefferson, and maybe they wouldn't have taken Justin Jefferson if they had gotten Metcalf or Brown, and they had become great players. So I think they're better. They're better off with JJ.
You're doing fine.
No disrespect to DK or AJ, but still, it just shows you that there's no magic in being a first-round pick. And for some guys, sometimes I think a guy feels like he's arrived simply by being a first-round pick.
Oh, there's
and
definitely,
doesn't
Mike.
realize
100%.
that it's not the end, it's the beginning.
Right. Agreed. There is definitely an element that you're bringing up here that is a very real human psychological part of the game. And Yes, the guys that are all drafted in the second, third, and fourth round, they think the NFL screwed them over. How dare they didn't think I was a first rounder? They're all coming kind of pissed off and like, damn, you guys, you skipped over me once or twice, and so there's that. And then the guy that's the first rounder, he's feeling like, man, it's red carpet and rose petals for me. They love me. Everything I do is great, and so there is a different mentality, and it can go either way. I saw it go either way in my career. I saw guys. They were the man and they never really worked and nothing really ever happened. And, also saw first rounders that were like, oh, yeah, the red carpet's out. All right, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you that I'm worthy of this red carpet and that you made the right pick. So that's where it's a scary, scary thing in the draft. It can go either way in a lot of different scenarios and situations.
It's one of the big reasons they dramatically reduced the amount of money that gets paid to the guys at the top of the draft.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
Those guys were untouchable. They were uncontrollable. You couldn't say
right.
anything to them because you weren't going to cut them. You weren't going to bench them. These are the guys into whose pockets millions and millions had been stuffed. They became basically gods in the locker room before they were even suited to tie up their shoes and go out and play on the practice field. So I think that has helped, but that mentality is still there. And there are too many kids that get taken in round one and believe that it's over. It's not. It's just the beginning, and it can fall apart very quickly. Just look at some of the names of first-round picks that have disappeared quickly from the NFL. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.